Greetings. Welcome, everybody. This is Srinivasa for itsdiff Academy. We are here to meet Mr. Dilip Ramachandran, author of Gangstavision. Itsdiff's goal is to bring great insights and share the knowledge and experience from great mindset, great leaders with the community purpose. So here we have Dilip Ramachandran on his new book, Recipes to Break into Product Management and Leadership. Very wonderful insights. So we'll welcome, without much ado, Dilip. Welcome.
Thank you, Sri. Thanks so much for having me on your show. Vanakkam.
Thank you. Vanakkam. And it's really a pleasure to see wonderful insights on this Gangstavision book. And what was very appealing to me is about your journey, the storytelling, some of the experience from your life. So it was almost reading your journey, and we are traveling with you. So that was a wonderful thing. And some references and key takeaways as part of the Gangstavision was very good. So first question, so people will be wondering, what's the name, Gangstavision?
Yeah, why is it called Gangstavision? It's very intentional, actually, for me to pick that name. And I found that in my career, I felt I was stuck. I hit so many barriers and I couldn't break through. And one day, one of my directs, product manager, asked me, "Well, Dilip, how do you do it? What do you do to break through in your career?" And I said, "Sometimes you have to do some gangster tricks." And that was the time when I thought, if I write a book about my career, it's going to be called Gangstavision, because that's the vision I had to have to get to where I am today. So that's why it's called Gangstavision.
Fantastic. And authors, you might be wondering, you didn't mention about Dilip at all. He's the founder and CEO and chief product therapist. He's a motivational, I would say, a speaker, coach, mentor with strategic aspects of action-oriented, or we'll say, mindsets, and wanted to change the lives of individuals or aspiring product managers who wanted to be good at what they are doing and who are trying to be good or trying to excel, and also wanted to just to take up the career ladder and become a leader. So in fact, I like the way he mentioned in his intro that usable, effective, rewarding experiences that delight users at scale. Because if you look at product, the customers are the king. So in this case, he's targeting the book and his experiences to tell tale in the storytelling about the various aspects. So let's open the book now on the Gangstavision. So let's see, in the next 20 minutes, we will see what has gone in his mind, what are the experiences that he had gone through, the challenges in bringing out this book. So please unpack this for us. So first question to you on this is like, this book has been targeted for product managers, right? And aspiring product managers, right? And then
That's right.
How is that happen?
Yeah, so I think you're kind of asking why I wrote this book and what the purpose of the book is.
Sure.
I found myself about 7-8 years ago, Sri, and I thought to myself that I looked at the leaders in my organization and I thought, I don't know if I can make it there. I don't think that someone like me could actually break through into leadership. I truly believe that. Part of that was because I hadn't seen enough leaders who I could learn from and get inspired from. I also didn't know the path. So I would say I spent those last 7-8 years kind of recklessly trying different things and going through the career ladder, or even navigating the corporate ecosystem to get to where I was. And that's why you see in the cover of the book a very important motif that was picked very intentionally. There's someone climbing the wall, but there's actually a ladder around the corner, right? Only when you get to the top, you realize that there's a ladder, right? From when you're climbing on this rocky surface, you don't see the ladder. And so when I had gotten to the top and I was a leader at a company, I was VP of product at Bond, I could then see from there, this is how I broke into leadership. These are the things that I did to get to where I was. And I feel like I have a responsibility to share the younger versions of myself the path to get there, right? And that's why I wrote the book. And when I first wrote the book, I wrote it for product managers, three, because that's what I knew. That was what I'm comfortable with, and that's my background. But as I was writing it, and I had the editors and beta readers review the book, I found that it actually touched many people in a very positive way. And I actually think the book is applicable to anybody trying to break into leadership in their careers. But the stories in there are very product manager specific. Yeah.
Right. That's a good thing to say about the art from a real experience, from your own experience, like taking a
Right.
leaf from the, your book, basically, pages, right? You can say. And
Right.
one interesting thing, I'm going to quote some of the keywords that you mentioned, taking a mercenary to a missionary approach.
Right.
Could you explain that to us?
Yeah, I think early in my career, I think the reason I was blocked, Sri, was I had a kind of mercenary approach to product management, and many product managers have a mercenary approach. Just because I think that's the history of product management. I talk about that in the first chapter of the book, where you're kind of trained to kind of work really hard, work independently, work kind of without constraints. And I think it helps you be a great tactical operational product manager, but it doesn't work for leadership, right? To be a great leader, you have to not just do great work, not just put in the time, you actually have to inspire others to join you in that effort. And if you're a mercenary and you can switch sides easily, it's hard to get people to join you on the effort, right? And that's one part of it. The second part of it is that as a mercenary, you don't necessarily build the alliances and build a collaboration and the partnership with people in the organization to actually find success, right? When you're a missionary, the whole thing is flipped, Sri. It goes from me trying to do something by myself and hoping that meritocracy will save me. It's flipped from that to saying, if this was my company, if I really cared about the outcomes here, what would I do? Right. And if I were just to focus on, like we discussed earlier today, just on myself and how I can do something great, then you can inspire people to join you in the same effort. And it just becomes easier actually to find success, and you attract others to you in a very interesting way.
Okay, thanks.
And
On,
I
on
think
the
the final
missionary, yeah.
thought, yeah, I think the final thought as a missionary is you can, that's actually how you apply force multipliers to your ability as a leader, right? Because you only as a single person can do that much, right? So for you to really mark change and to really focus on outcomes, you have to have a group of people working together with you. And to get that level of scale, it's not possible as a missionary, right? It's only possible as a missionary. Yeah.
Okay. And that tells me about Dilip on collaboration. So
Right.
basically, you to have a very collaborative mindset, especially being a product manager. When you meet with the stakeholders, gather the business requirements, and then articulate that into whatever it needs for put it into the product roadmap, and then to excite the customers. At the end of the day, you got to collaborate with so many support systems
Right.
that are required. So very well said on the missionary part of it. I like the way there's so much into that that the thought process
Right.
gone in there.
Right.
Then you also mentioned about the stakeholder. That's the empathy for all stakeholders. So I think it's a good segue to talk about that.
Yeah, it's a great segue, and a story I share in the book. Actually, I think we talked about earlier about the tigers. Is that it's in the third part of the book. Sometimes we think we understand the empathy for stakeholders. We say that we'll say out loud, I have empathy for my users or for my stakeholders. But if you really try to be honest with yourself and really say, do I really understand or feel what they feel? If you're really honest with yourself, you'll find out that more often than not, you're not having empathy for your stakeholders. And to be successful, definitely in product management, but in any cross collaboration function in the corporate work environment, you have to seek to find empathy for all your stakeholders. And part of that, step one of that, Sri, is to ask them and involve them in the process. And get a little bit step further than just asking, right? Then kind of asking questions and understand the response, and kind of start collecting some more intelligence from the people you work with, so that you can collectively say, okay, this is why we're building this product, or this is why we're doing this service, and this is why it matters, before you commit to it, right? That's a key part of the book, really. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I love it because you mentioned in the book somewhere you have to engage the stakeholders early in the design, which is very
Yeah.
important, and you feel they are part of the solution. And then
Yes.
also you get some early feedback, bumping ideas with them and say, thank you, we heard you, here is what we put our technology hat or product manager hat, and then here is how we could solve your problem. Will that make a difference to solve your pain or get you a gain? And then you get some early
Right.
feedback.
And
And
sometimes when you skip that step three, actually, you find it come out in different ways later on, right? You
yeah,
might find some friction from a stakeholder, or they may try to block your project. And sometimes we look at them and we go like, oh, somebody's being personal with us, but really, we just didn't give them a chance to participate. We
yeah.
didn't give them a chance for let them to be heard, right?
Yeah, true. And it's a costly mistake also, and it's a life
Right.
cycle. Even though we are agile and then trying to get things done faster with the dynamic market conditions,
Right.
it'll be a
Right.
costly thing. You don't want to lose out onto the competition. So, Dilip, that was a good one, Dilip. The next one is metrics mindset. A couple of times in your early journey, when you are trying to become an aspiring product manager, wonderful, wonderful site, like living in the bachelor days, and getting into your love life, as well as your managing your career, becoming a family man. You walked us, it's like a movie. I could do my mental movie on that. But again, to the point, you mentioned in a lot of areas, metrics mindset alone is not sufficient for decision making, and you must broaden your mindset and act like a missionary. So this is going back to the missionary thought process, but
Right.
what's that metrics mindset?
Yeah, and again, this is another thing that is from the history of product management. I think I touched in the previous question that, when we think of where product management started, right, in in the retail packaged goods world, it was all about metrics, right? It was all about using metrics to sell more product, or using metrics to optimize the way we sell product, and it works. And we should have, every product manager, every technical leader and not technical leader should have a good grasp on the metrics. But that in itself won't get you to the outcomes that you want, because it can actually sometimes it can bias you against limiting your vision or limiting your scope. Some of the examples I share in the book is, if you just purely um, worked on metrics, you won't create movies that are more diverse, right? If you just purely look at metrics, you won't create new financial systems that are breaking the previous financial systems, right? So metrics will just give you incremental growth. They can't give you transformatory growth. And being a missionary, focusing on first principles, focusing on who you want to be and what are the bigger outcomes you want to accomplish, that will help you create those opportunities to find your global maxima than not just a local maxima. Your metrics will help you get to the local maxima, but they will not let you see the global maxima. So metrics is a great foundation. Combined with a missionary mindset, you can accomplish wonders in your career.
Awesome. And then when you talk about the focus, you also mentioned one thing: outcome focused versus the output focused. People are so
Right.
worried about the output, they're just focusing on that, and you're saying, nah, you should focus on the outcome. Can you touch on this, Dilip, please?
Absolutely. I think it's easier to focus on output. Earlier in my career, you're new in the workforce and you're just thinking, I think if I do this many hours or create this many tickets or create this many requirements documents, I'm going to feel fulfilled about my day. And, that's good. I think that's an approach to your career. But I think in the long term, in the longer scope, you're going to look back and think about it and say, well, I did a lot of work in the last 10 years, but what have I really accomplished? What outcomes have I touched on? So when the moment you say outcome focus, then you have to think about, what are my outcomes? What's my purpose? What's my mission? And I think that's a good measure of how you can plan not only how you do things on a weekly, monthly basis, but on a many yearly basis. Now, I know this is very hot off the press from what Sundar Pichai just said last week. He just said, "Don't worry about outcomes. Focus on output." Um, I think there's an argument for that too, but I think that's also kind of, I don't know if Sundar Pichai's viewpoint applies to everybody, right? I think it applies to, if you're a high performer already really good at being productive, then you can, from an R&D context, you want people to do output and not outcomes. But then really, if you scaffold it down, somebody in the organization is thinking about outcomes, right? The CEO of Google is not just thinking about, let me just do an 8-hour workday. He's thinking about how can we transform the advertising space, right? So
Tactical
it's always
versus
about outcomes.
strategic. Yeah, tactical versus
Right.
strategic objectives, right? And second thing
Right.
is also your context sensitive statement cannot be generalized, right? That's what you're kind of
Right.
right?
Right.
You got to know a
Exactly.
little bit deep and peel the onion to see why it was said, when it was said, and things like that.
Right.
But
Right.
yeah, good work on the outcome part of it. And so when you're trying to be focused on the outcome, one thing I liked in the book is that drive a sense of ownership on
Yes.
whatever that you do. It could be your career or the product that you build, and when satisfying the customer requirements.
Right.
Thoughts?
No, I love that. And actually, as the course of the book, Sri, I was interviewing many people who I knew and people I found through LinkedIn, because I wanted it to be not just my voice, but a voice of other minority, South Asian men and women. So when people read the book, they can connect with the voices in the book beyond just myself. And so one of the people I interviewed was Santosh Subramaniam. And one thing he said really touched me specifically about this part of it, right? This exact topic that you're talking about. When we are earlier on in our career, I think we are so focused on checking these boxes. Well, I want to go to a conference. I want to become a director. I want to have 6 people reporting to me. And when you say, it's good to say it out loud, because only when you say it out loud, you know you want it, and then your leaders know that you want it, so they can create a path for you. But it almost is counterintuitive to actually achieving those goals, because you're talking about what you want. We're not talking about what the organization needs or what the product needs, right? So when you're focusing on, I want this, people are less inclined to help you get what you want. But if you say, I'm not going to worry about what I want specifically, I'm going to worry about how I can do the best job of this product. How can I help this company be the best in its field or in its domain? And that mindset shift, which is what I talk about, true ownership, and
Right.
it comes from the foundation of missionary mindset. Things change, right? People know that you're almost selfless in your approach to helping the company and the product be successful, and then they want to help you. So in Santosh Subramaniam's example, he was begging for budget to go to this conference every year. I want to go. And he just gave up. He said, fine, I'm going to do what I think is right. I'm going to do the best job I can. 12 months later, his bosses were begging him to go to the conference, because your mindset has changed so much. We love your voice and we love what you're saying. Can you please go represent our company? And then he was busy then, because he just got so enrolled in just being a great leader himself. And that's the interesting thing, that it's always a counterintuitive example. People say, how do you be a leader? You kind of know only when you get there, right? And the path to get there is through a real missionary mindset, and then envelop that with true ownership. Yeah.
Very good. You laid this foundation very well on the missionary concept there, which is very good. And some of the things I like, believe in yourself and tell the story of your value to you, so that the manager can advocate, and of course focus on your strengths. Of course, the typical concept of ideation, iteration, experimentation, and those are all very interesting takeaways for the folks who are reading. And also the Gangstavision summary at the end of every chapter, I liked it, because you don't just read and then go to the next chapter like a checklist. I've done the chapter 1, so there are some key takeaways, something. And personally, my experience, I was going through, it makes sense. Maybe I should have done that myself. It was an eye-opener for me as well. So thank you. So you kindled
I'm glad.
an interest in me, and then say, maybe I could have done something different We all work towards customer experience. We all meet with stakeholders. I'm from the project and program management background, so pretty much
Right.
it's a very tough sell sometimes to meet stakeholder expectations and also
Right.
explain to the executives on why we did what we did and why not what we did, and give the bad news, those kind of things. Interesting. So now,
Actually, Sri, thank you for your kind words on that. And it triggered something that I heard for somebody who read the book. The first version of the book that I wrote, Sri, it had all the tactics and the frameworks and the
right,
advice,
mm,
but it didn't have the story.
right,
And my editor said, "Oh, this is a great series of blog posts, but make it a personal story."
right,
And the purpose of it, Sri, was, it was difficult actually for me to do that, to open up myself and share my
right.
almost a pseudo autobiography in the book. But what it does, Sri, is that by me opening up and sharing, hopefully the reader can open up their own story, use it as a cue to think about their own story, so that the learnings can be personalized to themselves. Right? That was a purpose. That's why I did it. Yeah.
I could connect it. You talked about katrikai curry there, the brinjal
Yeah.
and eggplant curry there. I could connect very well with that because I enjoyed your recipes as you give, and also you related, and that they are entwined in your autobiography, if you want to call
They
it that
are.
way.
They are.
Interesting.
Yeah.
If I take 30 seconds on this, my mom always asks, "Can I make a beans curry, or can I make the snake god curry?" Okay, and then
Yeah.
we'll say,
Porlanga.
"Fine,
Yeah.
Padlanga." Right, that's fine. And then when we go to the dinner table, and then she would have made katrikai curry.
It's the
Then it
best.
is what we were thinking, this or that, and then she says, "You know what? Yeah, I wanted to optimize because this was only two. That was only thing, and but I had more of brinjal or eggplant. But you guys like it." So
Yeah.
ultimately, we love that curry forever. Anytime you make, we love it. But the point here is the customer satisfaction at the end of the day. She cared for us. She knows that we like it, and
Yeah.
she knows how
Yeah.
to make it nice for us that we even cherish even after so many years. That's what the power of customer satisfaction and taking
Yeah.
care of what the customer wants. So that's my
Yeah.
story.
She knows her customers very well.
Exactly. Yeah, that's good. So again, so let's now from the product manager, ambitious product manager, who's starting their career, trying to focus and get to the next level. You're given lots of advices about mentor, coach, talk to the manager, open up, and then understand your role and the organization's vision on what you are contributing to. Very well, the message has been conveyed to my
Thank you.
as a
Yeah.
reader. So now let's take a moment to move on to the leadership aspects of it. Okay, so far we talked about all this. Now, ultimately, as in your book, as we say here, they break into product management and leadership. Okay, so on the leadership aspects, so your insights on leaders, because something which is really interesting, and I wanted to bring it up here. We can read great leaders don't have all the ideas, but what they do have is the ability to create an environment that enables innovation and the free flow of ideas, so innovation can come from any part of the organization. Brilliant. Your thoughts on this, please?
Yeah. I think the reason I said that is because when I look back, a lot of the uh, book writing process was sitting down, looking at a wall, and thinking, like recollecting the past,
Mm,
and thinking about the best leaders that I had. What did they do, and what did I then take from them and use as in my own career as a leader? And this was really it. Um, Earlier on in my career, I felt that, and as product managers feel this all the time, Sri. Even project managers feel this all the time. In our function, we feel that we have this responsibility to have all the answers, to have all the ideas. We sometimes feel that, and we feel like it's a bruise to our personal ego or to our role if we don't have the ideas, right? But it took actually some time to figure out that our role is to create that environment for the ideas to come. They may come from us, but they may also not come from us, and that's okay. So the first step, actually, a lot of product leaders I've seen who have hired and mentored, they have to get over that hump and say it's okay. It's okay that I don't have all the ideas, and they have to first see it. And the best way to see it, if you've ever done a hackathon or be participant in a hackathon, and just give the organization an opportunity, 1 day a year or 2 days a year, to have their own ideas, you'll be convinced that ideas can come from any part of the organization. And even if they're not, the maturity of them, it doesn't matter. Like, it's those ideas at whatever state they're in, they can inspire you to have the right ideas with the context that you have. So, even every startup founder or any, even a parent, right? When you have problems and you deal with it yourself, there's only that much you can solve from it. But the more you open up and discuss, the more conversations you have. Each conversation you have, it creates more inspiration, creates more innovation. I thought that was really important. And I thought that's a foundation for any leader, right? To create the processes, the systems, the structures. And I'd love to hear, actually, in your, you are part of a large organization, right? How do you, and you're responsible for innovation, how have you seen that work or not work in your career?
Yeah. So the quick summary is the environment matters, the culture matters, right? Because the eye on what the customer needs will really help. What are the pain points, and so that we can make a gain for the customer. And then in that case, we take that the feedback very well to see how we can increase efficiency. At the end of the day, I would like to make a quote from Einstein. So it says, "It's insane." What is insane? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. It's insane. Something similar to that, okay? From the memory I'm recollecting. So that's not what, when you do a process, you got to constantly look for efficiency. It will be a cost reduction or making it easier to interact for the customer in the order process or in the buying process or in using the product and things like that. So ultimately, innovation is something it's already there, but you're finding the new. It's a disruptive innovation. You find a new usage for that, or making it much more effective and efficient, right? So you're right. The culture, and it's up to the leadership.
Right. It's a culture, because in your organization, you could have somebody on the production line who has an idea of how to make the process better, but they may not know, number one, they may not know that it's okay to tell you that, right? And number two is, if they decide they want to tell Sri, how do they communicate the information to you? In what forum? In what frequency? So the leadership can create the culture that enables all of that. Yeah,
definitely. You need sponsors, you need funding, you need the mentality and mindset, because generally what I see in general companies, without naming names, don't worry about all of these, take care of the current customer, and then, because we need to have operational sustainability, right? And then making sure they are continue to be our loyal customers, not realizing that unless you innovate, until you put a lot of R&D and get the feedback from the market, and then trying to look at new ways of doing things, you are going to lose out to competition. And the lots of examples that we can see from Kodak to your Sony products, or Ericsson, or lots of technology.
Nokia. So many examples.
It could be. I was going to say that. So the point is, anyway, the culture is important. The team dynamics is very important. And I love the reference in one of the slides, which I'm going to bring it up for you to comment on this. So for the audience can quickly take a look at this, the team culture.
Yes. Yeah. And this is actually, I of course obfuscated it and took some details out of it to make it generic in the book. But this is an actual slide I created for a team that I was a leader of. And I wanted them to know how each individual can connect to each other, right? And that's really important. Like, how, when an individual comes to work, they can figure out, like, what are the 3 pillars of success, right? And in this example was like working smart, collaborating, challenging the status quo, right? And when they, as individuals, when they were able to connect with that, then we were able to work as a team. And it's all that, it's all that layers, right, that create the culture within the organization. They start from the individual, You have clear values and tenets for what is considered success or considered, um, you know, a path to the future, and then you kind of build around that. I found a lot of success doing that.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, that's a nice way to put it. As and so, as a key takeaway for the reader, they need to do some homework as an action item, right? I mean, not just
Right.
read and go, and cool things. And one aspect which really made me think is, you want to become a leader. Okay, you set your career goals and ambitions like that, but you also recommend you got to be an expert in your field, domain expertise or knowledge and things like that, and so that you can work smart, you can be efficient, you can talk to your teams very well, etc. So what are your thoughts on that? Hope I've stated
Yeah.
correctly.
Yeah, you said it correctly, and I'm thinking of the exact page. I think it's page 84.
You
I
got
might
great
be I
memory.
might be quoting the page number wrong, but
uh,
it's a riff off. It's a riff off of something called an S curve. It showed up in the Harvard Business Journal,
uh,
where
uh,
it's a way to like kind of look at your career, and in your career is made of connecting S curves.
okay,
And when you join a new job, you learn a lot, and over time it can plateau. And if you don't do something about it and connect it to the next X curve, you will sort of look back a decade from then in the future and say, well, what have I done differently?
right.
So I think it's really important, if you look at your whole career, and I recommend this in the book, as an action item, as a tactical thing you can do, is look at your resume and try to draw the S curves in your career path so far. And you start seeing some things pop out. You might start seeing things you liked about certain jobs and things you didn't like about certain jobs. You'll also start seeing, to your point, Sri, in which jobs were you a subject matter expert, in what fields, in what domains. Start connecting them together. And in my research that I also share in the book, the people who've had lengthy periods of subject matter expertise, they've found it easier to break into senior leadership, because then you have something as a foundation to build on top of, right? You have the foundation of subject matter expertise. Then on top of that, you build, people skill, leadership skills, and you grow your teams. So it's really important to have that. And it can happen in technology domains. It can happen in industry domains. Like, the cuts can be different, but it's important that it's there.
No, very well said. So you need to have that base. So let's start with the basics. Get back to the
Right.
basics, and the documentation is really the S curve. The visualization that you have provided is wonderful. So the people have to
Yes.
kind of write it down and then follow through. The next question I have is about, in all this journey, you mentioned lots of names. In fact, you talked about your boss Suraj, and also you talked about Anurag, Mr. Anurag Verma, right? And
Yes.
other people as well. And I'm sure they empowered you, or they inspired you, or they helped you and coached, guided, etc.
Absolutely.
So that brings me to the next question on mentoring and
Yes.
coach, their value addition in your journey. Thoughts?
Yeah. And a lot of people were like me in my past, where this is the problem with this mercenary mindset. You feel like, I don't need any help. My work will speak for itself. Everybody, when they are younger in their career, think that that will get you to where you need to be. That's
Mm,
why I think it's not true, right? Just doing great work and being by yourself is not going to get you to where you need to be. You need to have mentors. You need to have partners. You need to collaborate. And it took me actually personally some time to realize that. Once I
mm,
realized that, then I thought, okay, I think this meritocracy thing is not working for me. I'm just working really hard. I'm not breaking through my barriers.
okay.
Well, where do I start? Where do I find my mentors? And frankly, sorry, I couldn't find them. And when I did find them, I found another reason to actually want to write the book was, I found especially South Asian mentors weren't willing to guide me and help me. Right? One mentor actually from Intel told me, uh, "You listen, I struggled in my career, so you should struggle too." And I felt that, why should I struggle? Right? If someone has struggled, let's help the next generation not have a struggle. Right?
Right.
So part of me writing the book was to break that cycle, and through the process of seeking my mentors, I found others like me. A lot of the mentors in my book, they also felt that we have a duty to help younger people like us find the mentorship and the guidance that they need to break through in their careers. And so they were very, very willing to lend their voice and to lend their experiences in this book itself. But yeah, that's key. And one more thing I touch upon on mentors is that you have mentors in the organization. They are your bosses. They are the peers of your bosses. You have to ask. They don't know that you need help, right? So a lot of us are afraid to ask and say, "Hey, Sri, I love what you're doing. I love what you're doing. But would you give me 15 minutes to chat with you?" I bet you Sri will say yes, but you have to first ask. He can't read your mind, right? The second thing is mentors within the organization, they are incentivized for you to be successful in your role. So if you really want career guidance, you want to find mentors outside the organization. Right? Sometimes you can actually even there's Plato HQ is a tool that I've used. I've actually mentored people through Plato HQ. You might find resources outside, a lot of resources to find mentors within your affinity groups also to want to help to guide you. Yeah, it's really important.
No,
Mentorship is really important.
very
Yeah.
true. And one key thing you mentioned is look for mentors outside the organization. That's a quote
Right.
unquote thing, which is very good because you quote enough examples there. What
Right.
the difference between having a mentor within the company that you're working versus you can always consult and talk to them and different thing, but as
Of course.
a true mentor, quote unquote, you said look for somebody outside the organization, outside of your family, outside of your circle, close circle, so that you will
Right.
get the really true opinion and preferably in the different industry, right, or same
Yeah.
industry.
Yeah.
Okay,
It doesn't
that's
matter, but just being outside of that circle is really important because they can be objective with you,
right.
and they can really help you grow in your career. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's fantastically done. And of course, it's a general on the book front, preparation, presentation, and promotion. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
you take a step by step approach. One of the things
Yes.
that I kind of liked it there as well. Cool. So what I wanted to move on to is the Gangstavision. Okay. Again, so it will be a quick summary for our readers so that. As we are reaching the concluding part of this special review of the book, Dilip Ramachandran, on behalf of itsdiff Academy, we are very thrilled to have him talk to our listeners about his book and also some valuable insights. So now I just wanted to move on to a quick summary phase here. Okay, just we talked about your Gangstavision, we talked about empathy. Now the two other aspects here, the ownership mindset and commitment. Yeah,
Of course. Yeah. And if you look at this image here, that kind of visual, it
yeah,
looks like a catapult, right? And it's intentionally there. And the base of the catapult is ownership mindset. It's based on everything we talked about, the basic skills in preparation, being a great product manager. How can you do things to be a great PM? How can you collaborate with the organization? And then how you transition from being a mercenary to a missionary. That's the foundation, right? That's the ownership mindset. And once you have that foundation, then we can tap into two prongs of this catapult, one prong being empathy and the other being commitment, right? You have to have both. You might not have both in the beginning. You might start only with one, right? You might have you're working in a healthcare startup and you really understand your users. You haven't done healthcare before, so you don't know much about it, but you're really, really incentivized to understand the users, your stakeholders. So you've got the empathy part really honed in, but the commitment part you don't have yet, right? So you'll work on that over time. You might have other examples where you join a company, you say, I'm going to really focus on solving this fintech problem. You are really committed to it, but you don't know the users that well. You don't know their pain points that well. So you're working on understanding the industry and their pain points. So over time, you need both to be really solid. Only then can you launch yourself. Otherwise, the catapult doesn't really work, right? So you might start with one and you work with the other one. And those two together are really the strength to give you the gangster vision to break through into senior leadership.
fantastic. And then just as a quick takeaways, I wanted you to touch on this main aspects of your book. I'm sure I don't want to give away all the information from the book, but this one is very good summary, I would say. The empathy, commitment, gangster vision. We talked about the mercenary to missionary, the true ownership. We talked about some of the other key things that here. Anything jumps to your mind that you can call out here?
Yeah, I think this visual summarizes the entire book, and it was intentionally done that way, so you can kind of use it as a cue to think about all the things you read in the book. And the bottom layer, right, that's preparation. Like, what are the things you got to do to be great at product management? It's those four things, right? And then on top of that, then you then you want to start thinking about how do you become a leader. It's those four pillars, right? And all of those together, when you start when making the transition from mercenary to missionary and getting your own true ownership, that's when you get ready for the catapult. So it's kind of a little deeper version of um, the previous
Sure.
picture we
Sure.
just saw, how you evolve your product craft, you activate your leadership superpowers, and you catapult yourself into leadership.
Fantastic. So Gangstavision, Gangstavision, and that's very well said. So back to again your goal. You have accomplished this book, and nicely with the societal focus of sharing your experience, your life journey, and with the due credit to your mentors and other eminent leaders. I
Absolutely.
see great references from entrepreneurs to leaders and great mindsets there. Thank you so much, Dilip, and we wish you very good luck in your journey, as well as we would like to see more and more books from you as well. Okay, on behalf of itsdiff Academy, we thank you for your time. Wishing you good luck. Any final thoughts from you, please?
No, I think this is a great conversation. I'm so honored that the book impacted you in a positive way. That's all I hope for. I want to touch lives in a positive way and help people unleash their true potential, because you have it in you. Everyone has it in themselves. They just need the motivation, and they need some of these tools, practical tools, to help them get there. And I hope I can do it for all your readers.
Exactly. So they be confident in yourself. That's a thing. Do networking.
Yep.
Mentorship is great. Have a true ownership. You want to be a leader, be a cheerleader first. You mentioned work for your team, get out of your
Yep.
comfort zone. And one thing I would just add is lead from within. Always like
Yes.
be a soldier first, then you be a leader next. Okay. Once again, this is Srinivasa from itsdiff Academy. Dear listeners and viewers, you can also listen to our podcasting. We will very soon make this content available on podcasting. itsdiff Leadership and Career Podcasting on wherever you get your podcast, including Apple, Google, and TuneIn and stuff. Once again, thank you very much for your time, Dilip. See you next show. Bye.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me.